Hey, happy end of January. I was reading something and it said that January is like, no, what was January feels like it's been 4 months long or 42 days. It's really been stupid how long January has been going on, especially with all the shenanigans that we're dealing with in the US. Nonetheless, I hope that your reading has been going well and that you've been able to find some joy, to find something that's held your interest enough to get you through this month. I had intended to have like a totally different set of books that I was going to read for the end part of January. In my last video, I said I had finished a Beverly Jenkins book. I was in the midst of another book that I was about to finish that I did, and it didn't take me very long to do. And then I was just trying to figure out kind of like what my next book was going to be. And I have a bad habit. It's better now, but I did have a bad habit of not reviewing books immediately after reading them. And so I would have books that were still in my queue, but were like 85-90% done, because I would often put them there to remind myself to go back and actually write the review. There have been a series that I finished because I love the book so much that I don't normally do this. I bought the series like immediately. I read one, I'm like, well, now I need to know what happens. I bought the second, and then I bought the entire series of the book. Again, not something that I typically do. I'm usually one of those that I will put it down in my list to buy, and we'll wait until they go on sale before I actually purchase them, because books are expensive. But anywho, I read that series, I would say a couple years ago, and I had not reviewed them. But again, they're still in my queue. And so I was looking through, I'm like, Brandon, this is ridiculous. Just go and read and review these books, or reread and review the books. So I did. I went back, and instead of like skimming it to review it, I have now reread this entire series. So I had read and reviewed book 1, and it's 2 through 6. So then they're not all like 200 plus pages. The first book, which I had reviewed, was under 100 pages, maybe like 115. The next book was book 2 a full length? Book 2 and 3 may have been like more pages. Book 4 was short. And then book 5, I might be getting the number of pages, but anywho, there were some novellas in the midst of the full books. So, but I have read them. I started them last week, maybe around Thursday, and it is now Tuesday. I'm again at my son's soccer practice waiting. Actually, side note, cutting pictures for when my kids from last school year, because I've had them and haven't given them to anyone. So I brought scissors. I'm actually cutting the pictures. That's step 1. Actually, step 1 was bringing them in the car with scissors. Step 2, I'm cutting them. I've cut them. Step 3 is now to actually mail them to family and friends. Anyway, back to the book. So then for the books, I've reread them and, pat myself on the back. I'm reviewing them. So that has now added another 4 or 5 books to my read books for this year. So my list for how far I've gotten on my challenge of books this year is actually looking pretty good, considering I just added, or by the end of this week, I would have added another 6 books on top of the 3 or 4 that I've read already. So January's looking nice. February, I think, is still going to be rough, because I'm going to read that Octavia Butler book, the sequel to Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents. And I'm really, really not looking forward to it. And I'm not looking forward to it not because it's not a good book, because Octavia Butler only writes good books. I'm terrified because I already know I've read part of Parable of the Talents. They had, for Parable of the Sower on the electronic version, they had like 5-page sample of 5-chapter sample of Parable of the Talents as part of the book. Or I read the sample of Parable of the Talents. I don't remember which. Anywho, I know a good chunk of what's going to happen, and I'm already stressed out. So I'm thinking that I might wait until the middle of the month. I'm taking some days off around the front and the back end of President's Day weekend, President's Day. So I might give myself then those 5 days to read the book, to read it, finish it, and review it within that 5 days. I think if I give myself a time limit, I would be more successful in finishing it within the time frame. Because what I don't want is to start it and not finish it. But I am really concerned that I might not, because as I've mentioned previously, the book is very prophetic. And the fact that it's set in and around this time, Parable of the Sower, I believe, was set for 2025. And Parable of the Talents is some years later, but it still touches on some of the same situations that we're dealing with now. So I have not watched a lot of news. My friends and I have tried to keep like our chats very high level and positive, while still, you know, keeping an ear out to all of the shenanigans and nonsense that are going on, but still trying to not get bogged down in the helplessness that one can feel in this particular time, especially when you have friends who are government workers who are directly impacted by some of the goings on of our current administration. So I don't know if reading that book is going to be too much of a trigger. And if it is, I'll come back and say it might be one of those books that I can't read until we're out of this particular administration. Probably a book I should have read when we were in the prior one, where things didn't seem as dire. But we'll see. I'll give it a go. Again, I've read like the first 5 chapters, so I have an idea of what to expect. I'm more so concerned about how it's going to end, and really how closely the book is going to mirror where we are now. So we'll see. I'll give it a try. Anywho, I hope your reading is going well. I hope you are doing well. I hope that you are taking some time to rest and to chill, and just to maybe look and sit out and look out a window. It's cold out here, so I haven't done much walking outside, but I used to enjoy that, just walking around the neighborhood, sometimes in just my flip-flops, to just breathe. And I hope that you're getting an opportunity to do just that, just to sit and breathe and believe that things will get better. I don't know when, but I have to believe that it will. So take care of you, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.